line, yeah.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the Transportation and Community Safety Commission meeting. We will begin with the pledge. Ready? Begin. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Next, roll call.
Yes. Chair Casabon.
Present.
Vice Chair Rondon.
Present.
Commissioner Cazares.
Present.
Commissioner Hadley.
Present.
Commissioner Nakamura.
Present.
Okay. Any oral communications from the public?
None that have been submitted for off-agenda items. Is there anyone here wishing to speak on anything not on the agenda? Oh,
Yes.
this would be for Jared. Jared Casabon, come on. Oh, yes, you can come to the main lectern, and then you'll be able to speak, the one that's facing Ms. Casabon right there. Yeah, straight ahead. Yeah, you'll have 3 minutes.
Excellent. Thank you all. My name is Jared Casabon. I live at 309 East 5th Avenue. And in full disclosure, I want to acknowledge that I am the husband of this commission's lovely chair. However, my comments are entirely my own. And if I may say so, for the record, Madam Chairwoman, you are like beauty and brains incarnate. So FYI, there you go. That's that. So I have lived at 309 East 5th for over a decade, and I wish to make this commission aware of the extraordinarily high number of collisions that my family and I have witnessed at the intersection of 5th and Juniper. I am convinced that the intersection is an outlier and is disproportionately unsafe. My family and I have been the first ones on the scene for near a dozen incidents. It's a common enough occurrence, in fact, that we are all well rehearsed at providing immediate support to those involved. My role is to run straight to the accident and help whoever I can. My wife phones 911. She's been the first to report many incidents. My children, without being told, know to grab water bottles, snacks, towels in case they're needed. Grade school children should not feel like they need to be part-time paramedics. The fact that we are this well versed in responding to these emergencies tells me that something needs to be done. Recently, there has been a particularly bad string of events in a short period of time, with one crash per week for the last month. In fact, I think we may even have had 5. The most recent collision, just 2 days ago, included a pickup truck being completely flipped over. Less than a week prior, I had stood in the middle of the same intersection, literally prying a man out of his car as gasoline spewed all over the intersection. I have extracted a baby on more than one occasion from a car. And earlier in the year, a car caused considerable damage to city property as it collided with one of the newly installed street lamps on Juniper. Something needs to change to protect citizens further from this dangerous intersection, so I would like to request this commission and the city work together to evaluate the intersection for any traffic calming measures that can improve safety. When we purchased our home, the fence in the front yard actually was partly demolished from a driver that had veered off the road, up the curb, and into the front yard. With 4 children and a dog regularly playing in that front yard, my concern is that if this situation is not dealt with soon, the screeching tires and the crashing metal will yet again find their way to my front door. Thank you for your attention.
No further public comments on oral communication.
Okay. If I'm correct, City Clerk will swear in one of our new commissioners.
All right, so Mr. Nakamura is joining the Transportation Community Safety Commission representing the school district. So if you wouldn't mind, please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
Roy Nakamura.
Do solemnly swear.
Do solemnly swear.
That I will support and defend.
I will support and defend.
The Constitution of the United States.
The Constitution of the United States.
And the Constitution of the State of California.
And the Constitution of the State of California.
Against all enemies.
Against all enemies.
Foreign and domestic.
Foreign and domestic.
I will bear true faith.
I will bear true faith.
And allegiance.
And allegiance.
To the Constitution of the United States.
To the Constitution of the United States.
And the Constitution of the State of California.
And to the Constitution of the State of California.
I take this obligation freely.
I take this obligation freely.
Without any mental reservation.
Without any mental reservation.
Or purpose of evasion.
Or purpose of evasion.
And I will well.
And I will well.
And faithfully.
Faithfully.
Discharge the duties.
Discharge the duties.
Upon which.
I'm about to enter.
Congratulations and welcome.
Thank you very
aboard.
much.
Official
Appreciate
now.
it. Thanks. Thank you.
We have one more person who would like to speak on our communications. Are you okay with doing that this time, Chair Castle?
Yes, we are.
Okay, yeah. Mr. Yeah, you come to the front podium. Yes.
Good afternoon. My name is Jeff Pratt. I serve as head of school at Calvin Christian School up on North Broadway Avenue. And I'm just here with a very brief request for consideration of speed bumps to be placed on Vista Avenue, which is the community street that cuts between our upper school campus, the United Reformed Church, and then our elementary campus and early ed program. So there's a big playground that sits right there along Vista Avenue. We know there's been some understanding that speed bumps are opposed by fire departments and maybe even the city itself. I'm not here to present any research or studies, but I do know we have a fireman that drives a truck as one of our dads at our school, and he would be prepared to put some things together for us. But the request came a little bit late for me to come down and speak to this council, but I would love to come back and just indicate that I think this is a dangerous place at a couple of times of the day when our school starts and when our school ends and when people are rushing to get places at 8 in the morning. So again, my name is Jeff Pratt, Calvin Christian School. Thank you for considering this public comment.
Mr. Pratt, before you leave, can I get your contact information?
All right, next item is approval of the minutes from our October meeting. Do I have a motion for approval?
I second the motion.
Motion or second? Oh, I'm sorry. Do you motion or second?
Motion.
Oh, okay. And do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you.
Voting
Want
is
to vote?
And in order to vote, you just hit the refresh button, and then you can select your vote, and then you click submit after doing so, and then it'll display the result. And the motion is approved. 5-0. It logged in. I got you. Yeah.
All right, next, agenda item number 1, Joint City of Escondido, Escondido Union School District, Escondido Union High School District, I believe, Traffic Safety Public Information Campaign. Yes?
Yes, and I can provide some context on this. So where this stems from, and then we also have Trustee Knight here as well to speak to this item, but essentially the City Council and the school district have a joint subcommittee where they meet on a regular basis to discuss numerous issues. One issue that came up last month was specifically the hit and run incident that occurred recently where there was tragically a 12-year-old, 11 or 12-year-old who passed away as a result of that, and it spurred on a discussion about how can the two entities work together, 3 technically, the school district and the high school district along with the city, notify the public and do some sort of a public information campaign to be able to inform the public about how we could be safer on the roadways and then make some practical applications associated with that. But really, this is more of like a public information campaign. Ideas were considered as to whether or not utilizing school district fencing along the roadway to put signs of encouraging people to slow down, things along those lines. Now, obviously, the school district has autonomy to proceed with doing that irrespective of the city, but what that specific subcommittee wanted to do was to leverage the benefit of both or all 3 entities to come together and see what we could do in that respect. On that note, I'd invite Trustee Knight to come forward to the front and to be able to provide more context. She was in that meeting and represents the school district in that respect. But for context as well, she's coming forward, is that the City Council's identified traffic safety as one of their top priorities. It's also coming forward to the City Council next week to allocate more funding towards traffic safety. So it's definitely not only a top priority, but an urgent priority for the City Council. So that's what I can share with you. Yeah, please.
Hello, thank you. My name is Christy Knight. I serve as the board president for Escondido Union High School District. We had an incoming 9th grader last year that was also hit and run at, I believe it was in the Rose area, and still at large, the person that hit that child. So there's been many incidents, and over the years, it seems to have gotten worse. I think there is consensus that there is a culture change that needs to occur within the city of Escondido around driving slower, paying more attention. Many of the things that enforcement is really important, and while law enforcement and knowing that the law enforcement will uphold our traffic laws. It really needs to be grassroots efforts from the community. And so also the school district recognizes that, but believes that our combined resources could be really powerful together. So we recognize we have a lot of real estate across the city where we could put up messaging. Our high schools also do some incredible videos and public messaging and print shops. So there is so many resources that I think our students can also bring to the table. Nothing would be more powerful to me than to see a young person say, please slow down. I play on this street. My friends have been killed by drivers. So I believe that there is an opportunity for our young people to help us share this message. Also, as a former student of Escondido Union High School District, we used to have stronger and more accessible driver's education training. So that is something I've advocated for on the board, is how do we bring that back to high schools rather than it being something that's put on parents and families obligated to seek that out on their own. So resources can be difficult sometimes for families. So as a board, I'm hopeful that I will have the support from my other board members to find and identify resources to make that more accessible for families. Again, I think it's really important that we do this together and timed well so that we have messaging and enforcement at the same time. I think that was something that we brought up in that meeting, is there's cities, for instance, Temecula and Murrieta, where enforcement is much stronger perhaps, and there is a culture in that community that they don't speed, they don't run stoplights, they don't run stop signs. It's because they know that they'll get pulled over and get a ticket or whatever. So I really strongly believe it cannot be any of our entities pushing this down. I think as a community member, I'm going to be as active as I can, encouraging the rest of the community to step up and help spread this message however we can. I'm a resident also of the old Escondido neighborhood, so I am very familiar with how people use Juniper as a thoroughfare, and it was never intended to be possibly that type of thoroughfare, but it is. And so just whatever we can do to put the message out to go slow, ESCO, or whatever it is. I know that's been used. And just want you to know that the high school district is in full support. I know our partners at the elementary district are also very supportive of this. Also, as a grant writer, I do grant writing for the hospital. I know there's grant opportunities from different departments at the state level, possibly even national level, where we could seek funding to help pay for some of this. So I would be happy to help do anything pro bono for that if the city is lacking any resources with that. So that's really it, and just thank you all for what you do and your service to our community, and I look forward to supporting this going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Knight. So as it pertains to the commission's alternatives moving forward, obviously the final decision on any sort of campaign is ultimately at the city council's direction, but the reason why the subcommittee thought it was important to bring the Transportation and Community Safety Commission into this conversation is that you have the subject matter experts in the room, you have the expertise and been appointed to your roles because you have a traffic safety background, so any particular recommendations you would have would be valuable for the city council and for the school district to determine how to proceed, obviously through a community-driven process. Furthermore, this Transportation Commission only meets on a quarterly basis, so it's difficult sometimes to advance the ball down the field. However, that doesn't preclude the Transportation Commission from meeting more frequently if they choose to do so. So you could schedule an additional meeting within a month or so to have like a dedicated conversation about this after you've had time to kind of process, do some research, and proceed. Because right now, as is currently constructed, there's nothing officially to vote on today, but you could provide some direction, and staff can work with management to make sure that we're advancing this to council after you've given kind of your final approval on it. So any questions you might have for myself, for Trustee Knight, or any comments you have related to this item?
Well, I appreciate what you say about, driver education. Currently, I am an instructor with a private driving school, so I'm very familiar with that. And it's a state level thing where, You have to have 6 hours of basically private driving instruction to get a piece of paper from the DMV before you're 18 years old in order to get your driver's license. So after you turn 18, you don't need to have that 6 hours of private driving. You might already be very well aware of that. And then the 18-plus person can just pass the written and the behind-the-wheel test, at the DMV. Because it's a matter of a state law, and it would be state funding, obviously, to get driver education back into the schools. I remember taking it. I'm a product of the Vista Unified School District many years ago. And I remember a health and safety driving class. I think those are awesome, but obviously all that funding would have to come from the state. And then I just want to say I'm really on your side about the enforcement thing in the city of Escondido. I think there used to be a lot more traffic enforcement in the city, and usually it's done by the police officers that are on the motorcycles, the motor units. And I think that they're low at EPD and the number of traffic enforcement motorcycles that they have there, and that they need additional funding to bring that back. Because as all of us, I'm sure, in this room know, there's extremely minimal traffic enforcement going on. Everything from the moving violations, but just equipment violations, with people putting mufflers on their vehicle and this is excessively loud, that's not being enforced. And then, the speeding, red lights, stop signs, and everything else beyond that. So maybe we can continue to proceed forward, especially on the council level, to encourage the funding to go to EPD for more of a traffic enforcement type thing. And that would be basically with the motorcycle unit of EPD being up to full staff again. So.
If I could speak to that on behalf of our Lieutenant Miller, who wasn't able to attend. He was originally going to be able to, and he was pulled away. I do recall from several years past conversations that they were suffering from the same kind of budget issues that the city was in general, and I know that they have been bringing new officers on board, so I would expect that we'd see some increase in presence around the city. Unfortunately, I think Lieutenant Miller could have reported on that, and I think he'd be happy to, but unfortunately wasn't able to join us. So maybe we could ask her to report on that next time. Okay. But thank you for your words, and happy to work with you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
On that note, any other comments, questions from the commissioners, or any suggestions that information should be taken back to the subcommittee? Because we'll be scheduling one soon to be able to provide them with any sort of insight the Transportation Commission might have on this.
No, I think no direction at this time, but we would appreciate up to I don't know when the next meeting for that subcommittee is, but if there's more information or more guidance you would like from us to come back in April. And then, as you said, then at that time, if we feel like we need an extra meeting to help y'all move things along as well, we could evaluate then.
Perfect.
All right, agenda item 2, the Grand Avenue traffic calming.
Let me kick off before we start on that, because I think Ali was going to speak to that. I did want to welcome you, Beth, as chair. I'm happy to have you join us in the chair position. Your name actually came up sometime in the last week about some project you were working on from the city. So
about a decade ago, or 15 years ago.
She has a history with the city. What was that, Holly? Do you recall?
Or the traffic surveys.
Oh, that's
on
right.
Juniper.
That's
Sure.
right.
Yeah.
We just installed another installation of that down on Gamble Lane. There's a
near that
new
crosswalk.
road that has a pretty substantial hill there, and put that on both of the approaches. So Ali had brought up the fact that some of your work, your handiwork was involved there. So And I want to also welcome Linda as vice chair. And I also wanted to welcome Roy Nakamura. I've had the pleasure for the last 5 years of working with Roy on a variety of different projects around the city. He's always extremely cordial, always extremely persistent. And we've gotten, I think, some good things done together, and we really appreciate his insight. So we really appreciate you joining us as a commissioner, so welcome. And he did replace, as everybody may not know, Francis Spoonmore, who had spent, I don't know, decade and a half or something on the commission, and we're sorry to see that Bill Durney has left us. He graced us for another decade and a half or more. So sorry to see both of them go, but thanks. Welcome to our new members. So David, nice to see you again. So I will turn it over to Ali to talk about Grand Avenue. Right? Are you going to do it from up there or down here?
No, just do it from up here.
Okay.
Yeah, if that's okay. Just kind of a little bit under the weather today.
Do you want me to push the buttons?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
You can move along on it. So we had a meeting with the downtown Escondido business district a few weeks ago. We've been looking at trying to turn the signal back on. You want to go to the next slide? On Grand Avenue at Juniper, and then, with all the new development that occurred on the east side, some of the striping has changed over there. We want to turn the signal back on, but we want to do some traffic calming before we do that, because we want to make sure people coming in are not barreling down at a very high speed. So we had a concept plan where we're going to actually kill a lane going westbound at Valley Boulevard and make it a trap right. And we'll do signage and striping accordingly for doing that. And then Valley Boulevard going west to Juniper, we're proposing what the rest of the Grand Avenue Vision project did, angled parking and parallel parking. So we are going to, we did a preliminary layout. It's definitely going to give us more parking there. And killing the 2 lanes down to 1 lane there is actually going to slow traffic down. It'll offer some friction with people, pulling into a 45-degree parking space and pulling out. So it'll slow traffic down coming in westbound. So with that, we have a few options. We are exploring right now is either we do this and then turn the signal back on with new crosswalk times in the interim, and then look into a scrambled crosswalk for operation there if people, are positively looking at something like that to happen downtown. They've got some of those down in Coast Highway in Carlsbad and Encinitas. So if you want to ever try it out, you could drive out there and see how those operate. I think there's one down in Gaslamp District as well. So with that, we have that option, and then an option to actually remove the signal and install stop signs, which is how it's operating right now. It doesn't really help very much because, when people are waiting their turn to move, pedestrians take the crosswalk, and the drivers are kind of upset at stopping for them. They should be yielding to the pedestrian in the crosswalk, and they don't. So they just make their turn or move along through the intersection. So it's not a good thing to make violators of all the people who are going through the intersection, pedestrians and vehicles at the same time. So that's one of the low-end options. Obviously, removing a signal is quite expensive. It's a very good operating signal, which we can get turned back on. And, the cost of removing a signal, which nowadays costs $500,000 and $700,000 to install, it kind of behooves to have an always stop, because an always stop is an interim condition before you actually put a signal in, if you didn't have the money to put a signal in. So that's an option, and then also a roundabout, but we had been doing some research on the Grand Avenue Vision project, and the project study report actually doesn't show you a roundabout at Juniper. Is that right? Craig, you've been involved with it, so you can chime in over there.
Yeah, we did some homework into, in fact, Carol might be able to share some enlighten us a little bit on that as well. But there were a variety of options that were laid out on Grand. One of them that our former director had pinned up in her office showed roundabouts starting at Orange, and then nothing at Escondido, but another one at Maple, another one at Broadway, another one at Calmia. Both of those are in. And then actually another one at Juniper, and yet another one at Ivy. So looks like Beth knows the answer to that too. She's a wealth of information. Anyway, and then there's also some documents that are available on the city's website. That must have been a later version that they had shared, and that does not show the roundabout at Juniper. Anyway, I think that there was always an interest in providing something there at Juniper. I don't know that that's certainly not a dead issue, but right now the city had proposed, requested funds from Sandag to build the third roundabout at Maple, and we're still waiting to see whether we had received those funds.
Yeah, I think Sandag has postponed issuing those funds at this time because of their ranking criteria issue. So it's on a pause. But yeah, so at this point, we are looking to see if we can go ahead with the signing and striping. And it'll probably be done in the spring because the weather is going to be dry. We have to have a clean, dry pavement to put striping on. And we'll have our city crews do the angle parking and the lane drop signs and all of that. So this will come in around springtime, and then we will turn the signals back on with new crosswalk times and the push buttons located at the intersection to the new push buttons that are right next to the ped ramps. So that will at least get the signal going, and it'll calm traffic down from 2 lanes to 1 lanes with angle parking. Once all of that is done, we will go ahead and do a new speed survey. It's posted at 30 right now. And once all the new striping and signage is done, it's probably going to warrant a lower speed limit. The 85th percentile might come in at 20 or 25. So we would be able to post that down to slow traffic down through the downtown. Do we have another slide after this?
I think it's an exciting opportunity for us. We just being able to slow the traffic down as it approaches Juniper and the area west of Juniper, I think would be a big plus, and certainly can't argue with the additional parking. So we're looking forward to getting that rolling. So anyway, I think that this literally it's the same kind of striping, spacing, and configuration that is in place on Grand right now. So,
Yeah.
any questions on that item? Yes,
Yeah,
ma'am.
I have a question. I think that's a great idea on how to slow it between Ivy and Juniper. I wanted to ask you guys, the experts, what was the rationale for considering a scramble versus just the regular crosswalk?
I think Ali might want to respond to that.
Does it just slow it down more? Is that what it is?
Excuse me. The regular crosswalk is fine. I mean, we can go ahead and turn that back on. That's what we're going to do. But to enhance the neighborhood, we could look at a scrambled crosswalk, and it might be an attraction for people to come downtown. Tuesdays are the farmers market on the north side of Juniper, and a lot of people cross every different direction. So it would be a good opportunity to look at how people want to just cross over to the farmers market. So it's an idea that we came up with. We can always explore that further down the lane after we get, calming in and the signal turned back on. The regular crosswalks just work fine.
Right. Am I correct, when you said about that we would need new pedestrian push buttons, that's if you put in the pedestrian scramble, or we need them either way to turn back on the
Well,
signal?
the pedestrian scramble needs a few more things. It needs a bed head in each direction.
Right.
Then you do the striping,
Right.
Through the intersection, and you have a different phasing diagram. And then you put in blank out signs, which are no right on red. They turn on when you don't want people to. So basically, the intersection is completely stopped for vehicular traffic, and at that point in time, everybody can cross whichever direction they want. And then, that kind of helps all the pedestrians to get across to any direction they want to get to. So there are some signal modifications that need to be done. We can design that in-house, or we can contract it out to our sub-consultant, or our consultant to the city.
We'll bring this item back to you in April and give you an update. I'd like to think that some of that striping will be down by then, so.
We wanted to present the idea at this time just to
Right.
see how the downtown business
Right.
is receptive to that, if they
Sure.
are okay with the angle parking and signal being turned on as normal, and they want to have something in the future. So
Sure.
we are open to feedback from the downtown business.
Right.
Give us
And
any of their ideas that they like.
Okay. And I think the pedestrian scramble is a great idea for that intersection, because there's so many pedestrians in that area, and if people are ready to, want to cross diagonally, it's going to save them time. And I think the signals, as you said, people get antsy if you're waiting for a pedestrian to cross, even if you're waiting to turn. And if we can put that in and let all the pedestrians go at once, then I think the traffic's actually also going to work more smoothly there.
Right, yeah, because most of the time when you have a through movement, you got a right turn movement, so you got to yield to pedestrians in the crosswalk, so they're always in conflict. And people want to make the right turn as soon as they can, so it kind of, that is the convention, it's the standard convention, it's been there forever, and so this kind of helps that out, that, you're not cutting pedestrians off or just stepping off the curb.
Any other questions or comments?
We
Do
do
we
have one
have a
member of the
public
public who
comment?
wishes to speak. Yeah.
Okay.
Chair Rogers.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I am Carol Rogers. I'm on the board of the Downtown Business Association. And a couple board members and I had the opportunity to see this a couple weeks ago, as was mentioned. We do like the idea of the scramble crosswalk for exactly the reason that has been mentioned. That is a very active intersection. And with the farmers market and Second Saturday activities with all of the art galleries that are down there, I think that that's going to function really well and be safer for pedestrians, we think. The other thing that I wanted to ask about, I thought that you mentioned that there was also going to be a forced right turn at Ivy. And one of our concerns, or one of our comments there, is we would like to see some additional consideration for pedestrian safety there. That's another place where people are trying to cross Grand Avenue, and now with Palomar, you have more pedestrians and you have more traffic, and people are not paying attention. So a little bit of consideration there as you're rolling out your plan would be a good thing. And other than that, traffic calming, we love it. Perfect addition to downtown. It's great to see it moving east, and I love that this is being done as an interim measure as we work toward the funds that we need to do the final work on Grand. So thank you again.
Thank you, Ms. Rogers.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who wished to speak on this particular item? And as a reminder, if you do, you just fill out one of these yellow forms and bring it up to me. All right. No comments on this item. Yeah.
Okay. I think that's a good point of if we're losing the lane on Grand westbound past Ivy, then east of Ivy, there's that lane that will become a defunct right turn lane to Ivy, which, as you pointed out in the staff report, is great because now we have the new signal at Ivy and Valley to help that traffic. But wonder if we do need to look on that north leg of Ivy at Grand. whether it's just sight lines for pedestrians who are going to be crossing there and that higher right turn traffic coming westbound.
Yeah, I noticed that today on the way here. I go to make the right northbound onto Ivy, and there was a couple walking, and they were just taking their sweet time, and I had to kind of slow pretty hard to make sure that, they were out of the way. I like the idea of having that lane turn into a right turn, because a lot of people, or especially you don't know the area, they're going to say, "Oh yeah, I don't want to go downtown and stop through all those lights. I'm going to go over to Ivy." But it seems like there's a lot of speed there sometimes.
Appreciate those comments. Thank you. Any other comments? All right.
All right, agenda item 3, approval of engineering and traffic surveys.
Hand that back to Ali.
If you want to go to the next one. So we have, as usual, 19 speed surveys to bring to commission. These are segments all around the city that are expiring. We usually get speed surveys done every 5, 7, or 14 years. It depends on if no road conditions have changed in that time. And so we tend to extend some surveys 2 to 14 years if nothing has changed. So we can
Ali,
always
could you
do
use your
that.
microphone?
Yeah, so we can
Thank you.
always do that. So the update, there's been recent updates to the California METCD, which is what we are applying, 22.350, 8.6, and there's a 7, and then 8.8. So we usually post the speed limit, 5 miles per hour below the 85th percentile. We round it either up or down, and we can round it down. And then we can round it down one more time if we need to, depending on, the environment of the roadway. So with those CVC and California METCD rules and 85th percentile regulations, we have gone and updated all the speed surveys. Could you go to the next slide? So yeah, we had this time a vendor NDS collect all the vehicle speeds data at a mid-block location, determine the 85th percentile, and then we rounded it up to the 85th based on what applies on that. Next. Yeah, so typically, if it's 37, we round it down to 35. It's 38, we round it up, and you can round it down one more. So the new CVC section, 20.6, 7, and 8 are based on AB 43 that materialized a couple of years ago. So with that, you can also have safety corridor. You can also reduce a speed limit by an ordinance, or retain a speed limit, or restore a speed limit if there was an engineering and traffic survey done. So basically, we have the latitude of putting in the speed that would be consistent for the whole corridor. We did run into one location here. We were doing, can we go to the next one? The one highlighted, number 19, Citricado Parkway, the new connection to the hospital at the south side of Andreessen. There we have a new bridge with a curved bridge and a pedestrian railing over the bridge, and pedestrian crosswalks on both sides of the bridge, and then bike lanes as well. There, our speed limit from the vendor was coming out at 51%, 51 for the 85th percentile. And that you can round down to 50, and then you can round down a further 5 to 45. But all of that segment with the other speed surveys that we did are coming in at 35 or 40. So we can't have a 50 or a 45 spike in the middle of the whole segment. So there we are going to have to take the data, but of course we're going to have to do ordinance to reduce the speed limit to 40 to be consistent along the whole segment. And you have the creek trail there, a connection now, and a curve approaching that, going northbound. You cannot see if anybody just comes off the creek trail by bike path and jumps into the road to go across. So for now, we're going to go with the 40 mile per hour speed limit, and then we're going to look at countermeasures to improve that crossing, like we have on all the creek crossings, either rectangular rapid flashing beacon or signalized or, a flashing beacon to warn people that the pedestrians or bikes across. So that is the next thing we'll have to do after we get our speed surveys certified. And with that, I conclude my presentation on speed surveys. So we have 18 speed surveys for commission to retain the posted speed limits and 1 speed survey for a new segment by ordinance. Any questions?
Yes, for the 1 speed survey for new segment by ordinance, I haven't come across that yet. Does that mean the city council has to pass a law then for that to? Okay.
Yeah. We did that actually on the east end of the Citricado Parkway near Scenic Trails as well a few years ago. I wasn't here then. The traffic engineer there did a speed survey. It came out higher than it should have been. They wanted to keep it at 35 because it's a school zone next to the high school with the new signal and all new medians and everything. And that was also done by ordinance.
I just think that is a little slow right there for that segment at 40, since it's such a wide new roadway. I understand what you're trying to say and do, but but if it were posted at 45, I think that would be kind of a little more reasonable for that wide open roadway. But I know what you're saying by the segments, and maybe that would be out of balance that way.
Yeah, it becomes kind of out of balance because you got 35, 40, 45. You can go 5 miles an hour over, but then once you get to Andreessen on the other side, it's again 40. So it would create a speed trap on the other side.
I understand.
And we don't want to do that.
I understand.
Am I correct, because it's a new speed survey, it would have to go to city council regardless?
Regardless.
In order to first establish the speed limit, so. Okay.
Consent calendar item, yeah.
Right, okay.
We do have a group of speed surveys that are going to council on the 28th of this month for approval.
Yeah, the ones that we approved back in August, so we just
Yeah.
kind of held off till we get this whole new batch and we get all of them through on one city council meeting.
Ali, I think for the benefit of some of the new commissioners, do you want to talk about the importance of why these need to be updated and how PD uses them?
Yeah, basically, PD uses them for enforcement. They want to make sure the speeds are complied by. They do have a tolerance of 5 to 7 over the speed limit, the posted speed limit. So they can, or they have the discretion to either issue a ticket or not, depending on the driver's behavior. So basically, we need to keep speed surveys around the city updated all the time. That's required per the California Vehicle Code, and then the guidelines to how to determine that is in the California METCD. And then you get assembly bills that change that. I believe the latest assembly bill is to reduce speed limits in school zones to 20 miles an hour. I just happened to see that in the news just the other day. So, we have all these 25 when children are present signs. We might have to go and change those to 20.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of signs to change. So I'm going to research that and see what other cities are doing and then go with what we need to do.
A number of the commissioners that have been on the commission for years have literally heard this presentation dozens of times, but yet it seems like every time that it comes up, we always have a new commissioner or two. So it's not like you can say, oh, you've heard all this before, we don't need to go over it, because, I don't know that David has seen it before, and I don't know that Roy has. So thanks for dealing with the issue that you already know by heart, right? Right? Good. Anything else on this? Now, there is an item for recommendation.
Right, so do I have a motion to approve this speed surveys as presented and to take the one new one to city council?
Yeah.
I'll motion for that.
Second?
I'll second it.
Voting is open. You simply hit refresh on your screen and then select your vote. And then after you select your vote, you hit submit and it comes through. vote instead. How about that? All right. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion approved, 5-0. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, item 4, citywide traffic projects status report.
All right, I will take this one. And as you know, I always have a lot of fun with this because it's a great opportunity to show the commission some of the great projects we're doing around the city. And for our new commissioners, we typically do this every quarter. Maybe we might skip one if there are a bunch of other items on the agenda. But honestly, one of the really premier projects that the city's got going on right now is the improvement of Creek Trail between, I think, the eastern limits are Citrus, the western limits are somewhere around us, perhaps Broadway. But the real focus of this project is creating kind of a recreational side of the canal. And they're paving a good section of the northern side of it, mostly for walking and recreation. A lot of activity stations. We can see some shelters, improved crossings, and then even on the south side, they're repaving a number of sections of the bike side, and that's kind of a distinction that the southern part of the channel will continue to be bike oriented, and the northern part of the channel will be more walking and recreational oriented. But nice to see some progress, and I think, as I noted in the staff report, we expect to see it done this spring. So, bring your running shoes and your roller skates, and we'll help dedicate this great facility. So.
Hey, Greg, real quick question. Is it true that in one direction, there's going to be a walking, running lane and a bike lane?
No, the northern part, so there's paths along both sides of the canal, channel, drainage ditch, whatever, creek. I think we want to call it a creek. Generally, the north section has been less available than the south. The south is pretty much continuous all the way, literally from Citricado to El Norte. It's quite a long section. The north hadn't been improved in a lot of sections, and that north section is what they're really focusing on. It's about a $12 million project. It's pretty substantial, so it'll be nice. It'll be nice. Yeah. So this, the annual paving program is something that is really pretty critical, and the folks in our office spend a lot of energy, and the city spends quite a bit of budget on making sure that these segments of the city get attention on a once every 8-year rotation. The section that they are doing this year, finishing up this year, I think ran from about west to I-15 and east to about Ash Street, and maybe 9th was the southern limits and 5th were the northern, something like that. But one of the things that we're able to do with this is really kind of catch up on our pedestrian facilities and our bike facilities. The picture on the right is Escondido Boulevard, and we saw some opportunities to in some cases narrow the lanes slightly and capture some space for bike lanes on the outside. So this is the first time we've had bike lanes on this section of Escondido Boulevard, and we're looking at Esco and Valley Parkway, and those run all the way up to Mission and maybe as far south as about 2nd Street. The ped crossing on the south is the first time at this intersection we've used continental crossings, and they're, as we know, a lot bolder than a regular parallel crossing. And we're trying to do those at least every major intersection, and honestly at most of the intersection we have. So it's one of those things, it's one of those projects that everybody kind of looks at and they say, hey, they finally finished that road. But you don't really look at the real details of it and realize that we're making improvements around for facilities all over the city. So we've already talked about this project in the previous one, but it's just I wanted to bring up in the staff report that we're working on this enhancement of Grand Avenue and making it a little more pedestrian friendly and parking friendly. You know, actually, one of the real good news items in the city is that Grand Avenue is almost completely parked all the time, and I think people are recognizing that those overflow lots, you know, that are on north and south, as you can see in this item here, parking 1, 2, 3, 6, whatever, those are being used more heavily now. So that's a good news item. We've already talked about this, but a couple of pictures of it. The diagonal parking that we're showing here west of Juniper is pretty much what we're going to replicate on the section here east of Juniper. So wherever we have parallel parking here between Juniper and Ivy, that's going to change to diagonal. So we're going to take that outside number 2 lane and together with the existing parking lane and then change that to diagonal. We're going to do the same thing over here on the south side, at least up to bike bling, and then it'll have to go back to parallel parking because of that left turn lane. We don't really have another opportunity. Different shot. This is the same shot that was in the staff report. Does show that scramble crosswalk in these areas where we've got diagonal parking. So you've seen this already. I know you've studied it closely in the staff report. So I wanted to jump into this pretty major project that we've also been doing that's going to improve traffic flow and even pedestrian crossing opportunities around the city. The communication master plan we have been working on actually for a couple of years. It was started based on the opportunity for a grant that we received from Caltrans that's paying for about 50% of the cost of these improvements. And I won't get into the detail here, but basically what we've been dealing with in the city is a very aging network. You know, every traffic signal is controlled by a computer. It's a controller. The controllers that are in most of the signals around the city date back to the technology that's from 1970s. And so we're taking the advantage of this grant money and replacing all of those legacy controllers with new, I guess we would call it state of the art. It's certainly the standard that Caltrans uses, basically the same controllers that Caltrans uses. They are a lot smarter than the controllers that we are replacing, and it gives us many more options for controlling the intersection, various phases and things. The other thing that is huge and has been honestly a real impediment to operations in the city, and Ali can kind of attest to this. When I came on board in 2020, I wish I would have included a picture of this, but we use this software called Transparity. And it could show us an active connection to all of the signals in the city. We have 178 signals in the city. And you could look at that map and you'd see all these little green lights and blue lights and stuff, and maybe 5 red lights, meaning that there's some connection that needs some attention. Well, in the last year or so, that map has kind of flipped. And where we used to see, 170 signals that were nice, shiny blue and green, that we were seeing 170 signals that were red. And what happened is that literally in the 90s, the city, maybe even earlier than that, the city took advantage of the current technology at the time, which was telephone lines. So the city had built a series of conduits around the city and put wires, our own wires in those conduits, but we relied on the telephone line hubs to bring those signals home to City Hall. As you know, telephone companies are kind of walking away from copper, and they were paying less and less attention to the maintenance needs of that copper. And that was the primary reason why all of the signals started going red, is that critical link between our wires and City Hall kept failing. I love seeing Beth nod her head because she gets this stuff. What we're doing, we have about 66 places where we connected to the city network via AT&T. We're replacing those connections, literally every one of those 66 connections with cellular modems. So we're basically shooting into the sky. We're connecting to that same location and going via the airwaves to City Hall. So we're going to bridge that entire AT&T network. That work is on track to start this spring. The plans are done. We're taking them to Caltrans to get final authorization for purchasing equipment. The city's going to purchase the equipment, and then we're going to hire a consultant or a contractor to install it, and we expect all of that work to be done sometime mid-year. And they'll be connecting those modems to get rid of the AT&T network. It served us well for a lot of years, but now it's not working anymore. So that's really good news, and I wanted to share this with you because it's just so incredibly obtuse that nobody might understand what the heck it means. But I wanted to point it out is that you can see this section here where it says cell modem. There's a little antenna looking thing. And then if you look up here on this map, every place where you see that antenna, that was originally an AT&T connection, and that's going to be a cell modem connection. So this literally is a picture of all of the signals in the city and how they're all interconnected, and then they'll run home to City Hall via the cloud. So it's exciting to us. I hope it's exciting to you. So that it'll be a great thing for the city. Now, the third piece of that is that the city is working diligently, and I think I mentioned that there's another picture, building the Sci-Fi network, fiber optic network, and then that will provide fiber optic connections to literally every signal rather than the hubs. This system will stay in place for at least several years until we can get the fiber optic connected, and those modems will likely stay in place as a redundant system in case the fiber fails in some way. So I think there's a couple of more pictures. No, that's something else. Anyway, I want to jump into development. I'm sorry. before I leave that, any questions on this? Okay. So I just wanted to throw a few pictures up here of some development projects around the city as I talk about. We have this unusual project that is, is everybody familiar with where Gamble Lane is as opposed to Gamble Road? It's basically the western extension of Citricato. If you were to head straight, it gets very hilly, as you can see here in these photographs. This project was approved back in the late teens and unfortunately did not include any accommodations for pedestrians. And we were too late in the process to make any substantial changes to it. So what we did in the office it was proposed, basically it was a 20-foot road here to begin with, and it was being replaced with a 24-foot road. We set aside 3 feet for pedestrians to walk because there literally wasn't any space before. It's not an ideal situation, but it was the best that we could do with the space that we had available. And then we put in the speed reduction stripes here and some other markings that give a fairly clear message to drivers that it's some special space so they don't go crazy over the top of the hill. Interestingly, I had visited this area 6-8 months ago, and clearly there were pedestrians walking across that hill. Literally, when we just had finished paving, hadn't even marked out, you could see some gentlemen and 2 older citizens and a child in a stroller in that space. So it's pretty clear that we need some sort of protective space. And then you can also see this gentleman here using his motorized scooter. I followed him for about a mile and he just headed on down the road. Now the other piece of that is that we recognize that even during construction that pedestrians needed an opportunity to get around that construction. So we had the contractor build this basically a walking path. There's a fire access road and then this walking path so they could get around the construction. And we talked about this in a previous meeting. And then we actually have some folks that are engaged for designing some sort of walkway behind that guardrail. Whether we leave that striping in place, it's kind of an unknown, but there we do have a plan to provide some sort of a walkway space there. Another pretty big project in the city is at the corner of Center City Parkway and Mission. On the left here is a new Chipotle, and this picture is a new Starbucks. And in order to do that, the developer felt pretty strongly that they wanted to be able to bring northbound traffic across Center City Parkway here and be able to turn across the median. The only way that we would allow that is if they installed a traffic signal there. And that traffic signal is kind of an interesting hybrid design, that it's actually kind of a slave signal to the signal at Mission. So they're very closely tied together. But interesting challenge that the city worked on with the developer in order to make this, to bring this in. You may have heard at one time that there was supposed to be an In-N-Out burger here in this location. They did back out, but we still have some good opportunities here. If you've been in the downtown area lately, it's crazy how many apartments and how many condos are being built. Talk about, if you're familiar with the term transit-oriented development, we've got it in droves here. Really 145 units here at Quince and Valley. I think it's supposed to be done later on this year. This other development that sits between Grand and Second, just east of Quince, is going like crazy, 32 units. There's another one literally across the street on the west side of Quince. They're tearing this office building down and replacing it with some 70 condominium units in that parcel right across the street from the transit station. So it's going to be quite a hub, a livability hub down there. I threw this picture in here about fiber optic, pulled it out of the staff report. This is just kind of a map of where all the various fiber optic cables are being put in. And you can imagine the amount of work that takes to put in a fiber optic trench along literally every road in the city. Every road in the city. And so they, in this case, Sci-Fi, they're doing it with about a 3-inch trench that runs along the edge of the gutter. You can see that little track in there. And so they cut it down and they dropped a fiber optic cable in there. And then they'll punch it underneath the gutter and put this little Toby box in there. That's their connection box. And then they take it into everybody's house if you choose to, if you choose to pay for that service. So it's quite an opportunity for the city. We were able to work out an arrangement with the developer to provide fiber optic connection to every signal. So that's a pretty big deal for us, and it provides a pretty reliable system. And it was a very reasonable, cost-wise opportunity for us. It'll actually cost about the same thing we were paying for AT&T connections. So that's the end of my presentation. I'm happy to take any questions if you have them. So.
Questions? I had a question about
I wore you out.
Yeah, right. The Juniper pedestrian lighting. First, I wanted to say thank you for the city for having those on Halloween.
Mm-hmm.
It was wonderful to have the extra lighting. I heard from lots of neighbors, and obviously with we had about 800 trick-or-treaters, and so it was great to have those on. My follow-up was I've noticed now they've been off for a couple of months. And wondering when we can get those turned back on. I thought, in December, people are walking downtown for the first ever night parade and walking downtown for the roller skating, and it would have been nice to have those on.
I had
when it gets
actually
dark at 5 o'clock.
our project manager about that yesterday, and they are doing some final tweaks. And part of it's related to kind of individual tuning of the light output, if that sounds obtuse, but those LED lights have opportunities to tune it according to color, so they can go anywhere from yellow to white, and you pick whatever in between. You can change the actual number of lumens, how bright they are. They can even change put a shield inside the globe to screen that light from, say, somebody's front window. And those are some of the things they're dealing with right now. I think they're pretty close to being done and turning it back on.
Okay.
But I'd be happy to give you some more details if
Okay,
you'd like.
that would be great. I understood that you had mentioned that before about being able to, especially depending on where they are, if they're right in somebody's front yard, to being able to shield them. But I also knew that, I think at Halloween, they said, we can have them come on at 5 and have them go off at 9. And it seems like we could be able to do that even as we're still tweaking, how bright they are, but to at least to provide that illumination for that time when pedestrians are more out and about. Thank you.
Why don't we have a sidebar conversation sometime in the next couple of days, and I'll tie us together with Matt Soter
Okay.
who's the project manager, and you can kind of share your thoughts. So that's okay.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I had one. Last time we were here, I had a question about the Bear Valley Parkway widening project. That's that signal near the Sonora Hills subdivision, and that's Lattimore Ranch Road. Was
The
saying,
traffic signal?
yes, the traffic signal there, which has kind of been down a lot lately. I don't know if you noticed.
Ali, do you want to handle that?
But anyway, before you go, Ollie, so I had asked, when you're going south, as you're approaching that signal, there's a curve there, and you don't really see it, and sometimes the cars get backed up there, and cars are having to make a quick, hit on the brakes, and you had said you were going to go take a look at it and look into the accidents or whatever, so if you could address that, that'd be great.
Thank you for reminding me. I haven't had a chance to go out there yet, and I will. But yeah, the signal is malfunctioning right now because I think some of the wires are frayed in the conduit as they were pulling it, and the rain actually shorted them out. So they ended up shorting out the switchbacks. Switchbacks are, they take the, DC voltage and convert it to AC 120 volts so you can power the LED lights on the signal head. So some of those are bad. We haven't accepted the signal yet because it's still under warranty by the contractor and the developers. So we have notified them. They're working on getting spare parts to replace that and troubleshoot the shorted wire in any of the conduits. I don't know where that might be, so they have to do all that. So yeah, we're getting a lot of complaints on that. It's a very busy corridor. And we had a lot come in just today up to the city manager's office. So our field engineering is working with the contractor right now to get that sorted out.
Excuse me a second, Ali. I think I saw an email this afternoon that it was fixed.
It was fixed?
Yes.
Okay, great.
And it's functioning properly now. Doesn't help that it was out for 2 weeks, but
Yeah.
it's kind of an unusual situation that once those signals go operational, the only real acceptable fix is for them to go on flash. And so free-flowing traffic that never had to stop there before has to stop. And so you can't go back and bag the heads again and take it back because, the side traffic doesn't know that the cross traffic is going free, and it's just a very difficult situation. And as we talked about police, it's very difficult for them to assign someone to be literally a traffic cop 24 hours a day for 2 weeks. So it's hard. It's a hard situation. And we have a lot of people we've heard from on that. So any other questions?
I had one final question regarding what Mr. Casabom said. That was crazy. I'm still kind of learning how things work here, but what was going to be done with that? Is it going to be assigned to you guys to look into that and then report back, or what's going to happen?
Well, so my understanding is because it was not on the agenda, we can't take action on it at this meeting, but we can ask staff to look into that intersection, as well as the one that was brought by Mr. Pratt for Calvin Christian, and to come back in April to give us an update of what they were able to look at. And then if it's on the agenda, then we can talk more about it and move forward. Yes?
Yeah, that's correct. And if I could clarify one element, so anytime there's oral communication on non-agenda items, we can't do that per the Brown Act because then the public needs to be noticed in case there's a formal vote. But the commission does exercise the authority to direct staff to say, hey, please follow up with Mr. Pratt, please follow up with Mr. Casselbaum, and then request that an item be placed on the future agenda to come back at a future time. I've already connected Ali and Craig with Jeff via email, so do the same with Mr. Casselbaum. But it's ultimately the commission, you have the discretion to say, hey, I want this on the agenda at the next meeting, and that way it doesn't get lost in the weeds, because sometimes that can happen just because there's so many other items that are coming up. So, but, yeah.
Well, am I correct? The April meeting would be also where we're starting to look at our next TMPL cycle of possible projects. So we could ask that staff put those 2 items in that mix so that it could be at least considered or evaluated during that process.
Right. Yeah, actually, if I could speak to that, the TMPL item, that is going to council next week on the 14th, and we are asking council to approve that 200,000. So positive thoughts toward getting that approved. So, but you'll have a lot more to approve next time. So,
Well, a lot more to work with if that goes through. Well, thank you, Craig and Ali, for the updates on city projects. It's always exciting to see what's going on in the city and all the improvements that are happening. At this time, if any commissioners have any other items that they would like to bring up or topics? No? Do we have any new oral communications?
Anyone else wish to speak at this time? None.
Okay, then I will ask for a motion to adjourn.
And on that note, Casabam, actually, you don't need to take a motion. It's
Oh, we
okay. You
don't?
can just adjourn the meeting.
Oh,
You
okay,
have the
great.
total
All right,
flexibility
well,
to do that.
the
Yep.
meeting is adjourned.
Yeah, perfect.